Today, I'm going to talk about iterations in Agile and what iterations means, sprints, and I'm going to show you how that works in Jira and both Jira and Azure Boards. And now, if you haven't watched the videos on how to use Jira and Azure Boards, or how cards are in Jira and Azure Boards, or even what cards are and what backlogs are, both in Agile and in those systems, just go to that website and have a watch of those, because this one isn't really going to make a lot of sense if you haven't covered that material already. So just go and do that. But now I'm going to cover iterations in Agile and how that operates in Jira and Azure Boards environments. So let's go back to something that's in the backlogs video. This is a backlog. They are purple, which means it doesn't matter which system you're in. They are customer value. They're features, or they're epics if it's Scrum and you're using Jira, but they are the customer value things. They're going to deliver customer value, and they don't have to be delivered within a sprint, but they do have to deliver value or an enabler. I try and work between Scrum and Safe way of working, and so we're really talking about features in Safe and in Azure Boards, and we're talking about epics in Scrum. But these are purple. That's a backlog, and we probably won't work iteratively when we're talking in Scrum. We're just going to get them delivered, and we're going to deliver user stories to deliver to those epics. But in Safe, we wouldn't. The iteration we would be looking at in Safe would be quarterly. But I'm not going to linger too much on that. I'm going to get straight on to where actually most people, when they think about iterations, and why it's interchangeable, are thinking about sprints. Now, actually, in Azure Boards, they are called iterations. It's iteration path you put things into. But we're still talking about sprints, and they're generally 2 weeks. In Azure Boards, they're blue cards. In Jira, they're green cards, but they're the same things. They're user stories, the things that get done in a sprint, and the backlogs looks the same. Things will be assigned, probably during sprint planning, and we'll have them ordered, and the most priority top thing is at the top. And delivering these user stories will roll up, deliver 2 user stories, for instance, and that delivers that feature of value. So these things will be prioritized based on delivery of those features. Okay, so here we have a backlog. This is the backlog that we groomed in the last video. It's all ordered, we've got them sized, and all we do is we say, hey team, how much can we get done in this sprint? And there's no half done, we can't put the line halfway through a thing. We go, we will get 3 things done based on the size, based on our velocity in the past, and we'll do velocity and stuff later. Those are the 3 things that go into this, and that's the next iteration of work. Those 3 user stories. That's what we've done. We've created a sprint backlog. So these are Jira, 3 user stories are now in a sprint backlog, because we said those are the top of the backlog. And the idea is the next iteration will take this little baby here and any others that have been added, and that will be the next iteration. So that's how sprints work. They work on user stories. They work on cards that are smaller than 2 weeks if you're working a 2-week sprint. Now, if you want to scale that up, and I'll quickly touch on scale, you would do that quarterly with the customer value. How much of this value can you deliver in the next quarter? And you'd say, well, we can get those 2 delivered because we know the capacity of the team and the velocity that we work at. And so we'll draw the line there, we'll deliver those 2 this increment, and we'll come back and look at these maybe next increment, or that might change, priority might change, and that's the beauty of agility. So when we're talking about customer value, like I say, they're called features in Azure Boards and in the Safe framework. So here's an important thing. I'll put all these things up at once, so let's just have a look at this. The important thing is when you're talking about working iteratively, and this is a mistake I see constantly, and it's always been, everywhere I've always been, they always think like this. And project managers that come in that aren't agile-minded say, can't get this. The question that you're answering when you're planning, if you're agile, is how much can we complete in this next fixed time box? Time is fixed in agile. What it is not when will this thing be done? When will this card be done? What date will it be done on? No. We've got a time box, and we're going to do this group of work. We're going to work as a team to get the user stories done, not this particular user story done by this date. That sort of planning is old hat. We know it doesn't work. The other thing we're not doing is we're not saying how far are you going to get in this value time. By the end of this sprint, how far will you have got? And that's really, really bad, because, we'll get halfway through. Well, no, you won't be. Try and get things finished. And it's the same with quarterly planning. I see this with project. I had this the other day. The project lead say to me, we'll be finishing by halfway through quarter 2 next year. And you're like, oh, that's not quarterly planning. You've not really got the essence of iterations there. Get things finished in an iteration, and always be agile, because things change around you all the time. Right, let's move on to systems, guys. I'm going to jump into one of the systems, so let's have a look which one we're going to do first. Is it Jira? Is it Azure Boards? It's Jira. So in Jira, here are the green ones down here. We have our backlog. This is our backlog. Remember, we covered that before. So we've got these green cards here. And what we want to do is pull one of those into this sprint one up here. So all you do is you go and you click on it and you drag and you pull it up, and then you drop it into this box up here, and that will put it into the sprint. That's it. That's how you do sprint planning in Jira. It really is that straightforward. Quite simple. You pull it up, stick it in there, and then what you're going to do is you're going to hit start sprint. Now this is a difference between the two systems. In Jira, you start the sprint and you end the sprint. In Azure Boards, you set up all your sprints as a set cadence for the foreseeable future, and they're set, and it will just start and end automatically. In Jira, you start them and finish them, and start them and finish them. You don't really map out your sprints, which is a bit unusual for me because you do know when your sprints are going to be. And even when I was using Jira, when I was at the university doing this, as in working at the university, I created a calendar that everyone put on their desks with the sprint start and end dates. We knew when the sprints were going to be. That's the fixed time cadence that we were working to. But what you do is you click start sprint, and that would start the sprint going. But what it's done to me is it's taken me to ADO. So I've got this presentation going. So here, this is the same in ADO. We've got the same backlog. Instead of it being green, they're now blue items in the backlog. I'm going to drag and drop my first item there drag it over here into sprint 1. And once I do that, it now appears in sprint 1. So now I have a sprint backlog here. This is it. I don't start this. These will all be set up sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3. And it will say this is when it starts, this is when it finishes. You can forecast into the future. I can pull those into the future, but that's not Agile. And you might be tempted to do that, guys. If you do that, you'll find you end up doing a lot of revision of that because things change and you just get into a bit of a mess. And this is a mess because if you don't do that, things will be in the sprint weeks before and then you don't remember to move out. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. So you drag those across and there you go. It goes into the sprint. There is another view. You can go down here and then click sprints here. And that allows you to see a sprint view. So only that item's in that sprint view. And you can put your tasks in next to it, just like you can in Jira. You can have tasks under your user story. And you might want to use this in your daily stand-up to see you can literally go through your cards and see where the tasks are in there. But in a good team, you don't need to do that. You can just look at the cards. So one thing I did want to go is I wanted to show you a little bit of if you were working at scale as well. So if you're working at scale, Azure Boards is perfect for this. So I'm looking at like a portfolio group here. We've got the initiatives here and the epics here and all of the features that are going to be delivered. You can, of course, put these things. So if I go to this feature here, you can put that into a portfolio increment. And this portfolio increment lasts 55 days. And that will say that that's going to be delivered in that portfolio increment. So you've got this scaled way of working as well that works on quarters and not just in the sprints. So iteration, increment, they're different, but I use them interchangeable almost in this concept. Okay. So that's it. That's iterations. Hope you enjoyed it. I will be doing more videos on this. I'll be putting this on the website. Go back and watch it again if I went too quick for you. Thank you very much for your time.